in my veins. Blue and one, I red, white, and blue in my brain. I'm Bulldog born. Bulldog, that's my breed. I was born to follow where the Bulldogs lead.
Ladies and gentlemen, he once survived a Terry Wheeler-inspired parachute jump into Port Phillip Bay, into shark-infested waters. He's too tough to die. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Dougie Hawkins. Hey, Doug.
Oh, Matty. Thank you, Matty. That is a magnificent introduction. It is the most scariest thing I've ever done in my life. I don't like small planes. I'm terrified of heights. And we've got to land in the ocean at Williamstown Beach there. And I'm shit scared of sharks. Matty, why do I want to do it? I'm the club captain. I said to Wills, I don't want to be club captain. I'll step away. I don't want to do this. Most scariest thing ever. And obviously the boys did it. That was at 93, Matty. I think it was 93, start of 93.
Yeah, that's right.
Why would you want to do that? Seriously. But anyway, we did it. I was on the last plane with Mark, with Kenny Hunter. Me and Mark, and I reckon Libba was on it. Libba didn't want to do it. I mean, Libba was this. Libba had the biggest ticker of all of us by a mile.
Love it, love it. Well, do you know who's got an incredible ticker as well? It's today's guest, Dougie.
This bloke, you've touched on him. Have you said his name yet?
I haven't. It's your great teammate, isn't it? Mark Hunter from Melton.
From Melton. Mark Kenny Hunter. Mate, amazing, Matty, amazing Mark Hunter, footballer. Mate, Matty, before we touch on the footy, he actually could play cricket.
Oh.
Real good. I think he open batted for Melton at sub-district level. He's a good good cricketer, very good cricketer. And then obviously started his junior football at Melton. Come to Footscray at 22, 23. Matty, I think it may have been early 90s. Played Mark Hunter number 10. Number 10 he was, played off half back. Run, kick, reliable, steady, strong, good decision maker. Kicked the ball long when he was under pressure, which was a good thing, I felt. A lot of blokes should be doing it more now, but he was good at that, Mark Hunter. Mate, terrific player, reliable, good balance. Matty, I got a gut feeling, Matty, he didn't play in the 92 prelim against Geelong. I've got a feeling him and Foster didn't play. And why am I saying Scotty Wine? He won the Brownlow that year, 92. I don't know if he played that year either, but not having Mark Hunter and Foster at centre half back and half back flank. Mark, we lost that drive from Mark Hunter off half back. And I'm pretty sure, Matty, didn't play in that we'll ask him anyway. I'm pretty sure he didn't play in that prelim final against Geelong.
Yep, you are spot on with that. I think he must have gotten injured really late in the season because he missed that final series. Scotty Wind was replaced by Justin Charles. He was injured for one of those as well. You're right, and Fozzie was obviously had that broken leg from that kick at Whitten Oval against Deer, didn't he? So
yeah,
your cattle.
And you chuck in Brian Royal too. I reckon Matty didn't play that 92 final series either. Choco never played either. So not having them blokes in that side was a huge blow to us. And particularly with not having Mark Hunter in that side as well, because Mark Hunter had a terrific career. What did he play? 130, maybe 150 games? How many?
130. You're right on the nose there. Yeah, exactly.
Did he?
Yep, spot on.
Yeah, I nailed that, did I?
Yeah, you did. 130 games, 10 goals over 9 seasons.
And what year did he finish, Matty? Did Mark finish?
He finished in 1996. In fact, his last game, you're going to love this, Dougie, was the famous "I'll spew up" game with Plough.
Terry Wallace, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, well, amazing, Matty. He had he came along from Melton, and all of a sudden he grabbed it. He spot on the half-back flank. He got the number 10 jumper, and he had a terrific career with us. And then he got into the horse racing. We had a nice horse together. Me, him, Simon Atkins, Nigel Kellett. I reckon Nigel was in this horse. It was called Change of Fortune. Now Mark picked it out. Mark picked the horse out. I got a feeling a trainer in Epsom or over the other side of town had the horse and had bad knees. and Mark liked the horse, and I think it might have been a 5-6-year-old, and he took it to Robert Smurden. Robert Smurden got it right. It won a Kyneton Cup, ridden by Vlad Jurek back in 1995. It was, and then it won a gold nugget at Ballarat, and we got beaten by that much, Matty, by a lip. You asked Kenny. We got beaten by a lip in the Ballarat Cup, ridden by Patrick Payne. It was.
Oh.
And I'm on the stairs, and I said to Kenny, you can ask him this. I said, if we win the Ballarat Cup, I'm going to strip naked. I'm going to run around the racetrack naked if it wins the Ballarat Cup. And off went the shirt. I thought we'd won.
That's why the other horses said, we're not going to allow this. Let's conspire to stop this from happening.
True story, Matty. So we had a lot of fun with a couple of horses together as well. And he's a good bloke, terrific fella. Like Danny Southern, what you see is what you get. Just a good fella. But going back to his footy, mate, he was a real steady, strong, reliable. Very rarely, Matty, beaten one-on-one. Like Danny Southern, very rarely beaten one-on-one. Just had great balance, good decision maker, and tough. Mark was tough, genuine tough. So he was a good player.
They breed him tough out at Melton, and you know what? I can hear him headbutting the door right now.
Kenny, you little beauty. Love you, mate. Love you, Kenny.
Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce today's guest. After 9 seasons as a player at the Kennel, he went to the stables and he returns inside the Kennel today. It's none other than Bulldog champion, Mark Kenny Hunter.
Hey, Matty, good to be here. Good to be back.
Indeed, absolutely, Mark. Well, look, the supporters have been asking all about you, and we want to start, as we do with all our guests, by asking you, how would you describe yourself as a player?
Not much good. Not much good. Injury prone, poor disposal, but hung around for 9 years.
You did indeed. 130 games. Modest as always, though, Mark. I want you to take us back to the beginning, back to the days in Melton when you were a junior. How did your love affair start with footy?
Oh, look, that's all you had to do as a kid, footy and cricket. You know, for footy and cricket, when you grew up through our era, that's all there was. So I alternated my juniors between Melton and Glenroy. I alternated between Melton and Glenroy. I think I played Melton under 18s and I played Glenroy a seniors reserves grand final. I'm not sure which one came first, but then I found my way down to Geelong in 1984 in the under 19s. Wow.
So what was that like? A bit of a baptism of fire, I imagine, as a young man turning up to Geelong. You've got a Gary Ablett down there. What were the early days like in the category?
Well, the under 19s was a bit different. We had Ian Nankervis as a coach, who was an outstanding man and a great coach. Went up next year to the senior list with Tommy Hafey as the coach, and David Whedon, I think, was the reserves coach. And that's when I'm not sure if that was exactly that Greg Williams and all those guys all arrived. So I was a bit starstruck with everything. I was actually picked in the first senior practice match. They came in and they said, Tommy said, look, Tommy's got some great news. You picked in the first senior practice match. And I probably, looking back, I made a mistake. I said, look, I can't play. They said, why? I said, well, we're halfway between innings and I'm playing cricket for Melton in a semi-final and I'll have to say that I can't play. And, no, you've got to play. I said, look, I can't let them down. And I've never heard so many swear words in about 3 or 4 seconds coming from David Whedon, I think it was. And bad mistake. Looking back was a bad mistake.
Wow. So you chose cricket on that day. How did you go?
That's another long story. I got back after playing reserves at 5 for 30, chasing 167 in the semi-final. Put the pads on, ran straight out the bat, and I was last man out, 9 runs short of victory, and I got given out caught behind. I never hit the ball, and I got given out caught behind, so I sacrificed the senior match. I got hit on the hand and nearly broke my hand and got cheated out caught behind at the finish, and we lost by 9 runs.
Oh, my God. It sounds like the footy gods were out for you.
Well, no luck. I think looking back, I should have said, look, sure, I'll play senior footy, and I think that would have been the better move.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, we know that you're a talented cricketer. We've heard a lot about that. But footy, you were destined to follow, and it was a surprise, I understand, for Geelong to cut you at the end of 1986. Is that right? And you returned to the Riddle District League.
Oh, not really surprised. I played the first 5 games that year in the reserves in 85, and I was just getting sore and sore in my back. It was just killing me. I couldn't get out the car. I couldn't bend over. And I actually had 14 weeks off between rounds 5 and round 19 with a crook back. And they kept saying it's sciatic, and they kept working on it like that. I came back and I played 2 games in, say, round 19 and 20 or something like that, and I couldn't run. It was no better. So they sent me off to Ballarat to St John of God Hospital and diagnosed with 4 stress fractures.
Wow.
So I'd been completely misdiagnosed for 3 or 4 months, and basically the diagnosis was you had to have 12 months off, and so they just said, okay, see you later. So I missed half of 86 and went back and played half of 86 in Melton, and the rest of 80 I played 87 in Melton.
Yeah, well, you did better than play because you won the best and fairest in the league, I understand, and we were invited down to the Doggies not long after.
I was a bit lucky. I had Gordon Casey and Butchie Edwards in the. Gordon Casey was coach, one of the famous number 10s for the Bulldogs, and Butchie Edwards, obviously an AFL legend. And Butchie was playing, and we won the flag in 86, and we weren't much good in 87, but I had a pretty good year, and Case and Butch both recommended I go down and do pre-season at the Bulldogs, and off it went.
So here you are. You've made your way down at the start of 1987. Tell us what it was like walking through the doors at the Kennel, and who made an early impression on you?
Yeah, start of 88 I went down there, 88 was the first year, and the first impression was Doug Hawkins, who we had a 4K run, and I came back and used to put your keys on the table, and I had a little badge on my key ring that gets you into the tunnel for free and get you 10 free drinks. And I come back from my run, and there's Hawk looking as coy and sly as you could be, trying to pinch the tunnel badge off my key ring. So that was my first impression of Doug Hawkins, and he's a good man, but that was the first impression of him.
Braybrook boy, indeed. You can't stop him. I understand. So here you are. You've got Mickey Malthouse, notoriously a tough man. What was he like towards you as a junior or as a young man coming down to Footscray?
Sensational. I was 22 years old, and I went down there, and I think a lot of the senior guys were probably Mick only had 2 years to go before he went over to West Coast. I think a lot of the senior guys had heard his message for quite a while, but being a new player and facing up to Mick, like, you would have run through a brick wall for him. I'm sure all the players, the senior players, the message had probably worn off a bit, but I'd say go back, 5 or 6 years when their career was starting, they would have felt exactly the same. So everything he was saying was new to me, and I would have run through a brick wall for him.
We hear that time and time again from players on this show. So here you are. Round 1, you get a tap on the shoulder, and your boyhood dream comes true. You've been picked for round 1 of 1988. It didn't take you long. How was that news broken to you? And tell us about the big day.
I don't remember how the news was broken, to be honest. I just got no recollection of that whatsoever. The big day was out at Waverley, and I tried to sleep and tried to act normal. I started on the bench with Brenton Vilchins that day, and I came on at the 23-minute mark of the second quarter. I went around on the ground. I think I had lead in my legs. I just felt like I had complete concrete. It was just all nervous energy. I was gone. And I played on Bernard Toohey. And looking back, having played later with Bernard Toohey, who's a good man, and played alongside him, half-back flank, obviously for the Dogs, probably lucky I got away without a backhander. So no, I kicked the goal before half-time, so I was on the board. I only kicked 9 or 10 for my career, whatever that was. But it was a day I'll never forget. But I was exhausted. I think I just used up that much energy before I even got on the ground.
Unbelievable. Yeah, look, I remember that as a 9-year-old myself, that big day. You debuted with Russell Shields, I think, who snagged 5 goals that day.
Yeah, Shieldsy from Hawthorn, was he? Hawthorn Russell, I think he came from, or I think so. Yeah, I do remember the game. I think we won. I think I've watched the replay a few times. A bit hard to track down footage, but I have watched it. Yeah, we got the job done. It was a very memorable day.
Oh, brilliant. Well, round 2 was a memorable day as well. I was sitting on the Johnny Gent stand side, and right in front of me there was a huge incident. You probably had ringside front row seats to the Rod Grinter and Terry Wallace show with a big left hook. Do you remember that day?
Yeah, I do. I was on the bench, and Plough, it was pretty much in front of me, and Plough come off the ground looking a whole lot worse for wear, and it was. I'm sitting there looking at him going, Jesus, is this what AFL football's all about? It was pretty nasty. Yeah, pretty nasty day, that one.
Oh, was it ever? And the Bulldog faithful came out roaring, that's for sure. I remember that. But in the seventh game that you played, it was down at Carrara. It was another really famous game. It came boiled down to the final kick of the game where Tony McGuinness bombed the ball long and Simon Beasley took a grab right deep in the square as the siren sounded. He needed to kick it through to win the game. Do you remember what ensued after that moment?
Yeah, I do. If you watch the replay there, I'm standing on the goal line, watching the ball go over my head. I think I was playing in the forward line at that stage, and I reckon you look back and there's someone doing a triangle on the mark. So there's three players forming a triangle on the mark. Some Yarra's running across the mark, trying to put him off. It was the most bizarre scene. That was, there's comedy capers up there at Carrara.
There's a huge human pyramid, wasn't it? And Simon was also contending with a million people running on the field and light deteriorating quickly. So he kicked 7 straight by that point, but that one just strayed left.
Just snuck off, and unfortunately that wasn't enough to win.
No, absolutely. Now, I don't know if you know this, but up until round 20 of 1988, which was about your 12th game, the highest Bulldog number ever worn was by Tony Liberatore, who wore the number 60 in 1986. However, on this day, you emerged after half time wearing the number 64.
Yep. Someone brought that to my attention about 2 years ago, and I said, no, I never wore number 64. And I don't know, some ratbag must have ripped it off and had to get a new jumper at half time or something. I don't remember why it happened, but I have seen footage of it with it on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you hold the record there, Mark, so it's brilliant.
Well, that's normally that means you've never played AFL football, so I don't know about. Hopefully, someone breaks it soon.
Brilliant. So, look, we missed finals that year, didn't we? After just narrowly losing the last 2 matches of that. But we entered the season 1989 with some renewed hope. You would go on to become a mainstay in the team. You played 16 games in 1989. But the season was a disaster, wasn't it, for the club, both on and off the field? Can you remember what happened there?
Not really. I think, as I said before, I think Mick was coming to the end of his tether. He probably, who knows I don't know whether they'd made up their mind to go already. I was trying to think back today before this interview. I think we only win 5.5 or 6.5 games for the year? It wasn't a lot.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't really know. I think the message had worn off. I think Mick was ready to move on. The senior players were looking for a fresh start, and I don't remember a lot of the season, but obviously the end of the season was, everything was happening at the end of the season.
Yeah, tell us about when the news broke. I guess it was at the Best and Fairest in Carlton that night at the end of the year that the club was going to be merging. We're folding and we're merging with Fitzroy. How was that news broken and what was the reaction from you and your teammates?
Well, again, I don't really remember the specifics of it. I sort of remember that big day at the Whitten Oval where everyone was there and they're shaking the cans and, Irene Chatfield, Dennis Gallimberti and all the famous footage. I remember Robert Shaw, because Curly Austin and Robert Shaw were going to be in charge of the team. And Robert Shaw come up and said, look, you're in the best 18, you'll be playing in the best 18. And so that was reassuring for what might happen. But then the Bulldog faithful got to work and obviously never eventuated.
No, unbelievable scenes at the rally, wasn't it? And we survived. And 1990 came around, I guess. And you were missing in the early part of the season. But do you remember the day around one of that year when the Bulldogs, we had our survival game and it was like a carnival atmosphere against the Saints, round one?
Yeah, I do. I was missing for that year. I think I get on really well with Terry Wheeler now, but he made life hard for me at the start of 1990. I think he thought that I'd had a pretty good run under Mick Moldhouse, so he wasn't having any of that. He tried pretty much everybody bar the boot starter in my spot down in the back pocket there, and I took till round 13 to break into the team, and I was okay after that. But we do get on well now, Wheels, but we did have a few crosswords along the way at the start of 1990. I do remember that day. I remember, Leon Cameron and Chris Grant just bursting onto the scene, and it was amazing the difference in the football club with a different attitude. It was amazing what happened.
Yeah, unbelievable, wasn't it? And it didn't take long for you to make a mark once you did return. And in fact, late in that season, we had a really famous game. It was against the eventual premiers Collingwood at the MCG, the famous one with Billy Collinyuk. Do you remember breaking into the side and the build-up of that game?
Yeah, look, I got in the side. I think I played 13 games in the twos, and the first game was against St Kilda out at Moorabbin, and I think I played on Jimmy Cracker for a little while there that day. And the Collingwood game with Billy Collinyuk, I love that replay. That doesn't shock me. He's such a talented player. And if anyone's going to do that, I think Bruce McAvaney summed it up. Will he take him on? Yes, he does. And, Billy would back. Oh, Billy's the best one-on-one player I think I saw at the club. And
Wow.
no shock to see him take Graham Wright on and do what he did.
Oh, it was enormous, wasn't it? The boy from St Albans, he did it. So, Mark, 1990 wasn't to be, but the seedlings were there, weren't they? And in 1991, you'd go on to play 22 games, and you just exploded as a player. What was the catalyst for your consistency and your fantastic form that year, would you say?
Well, probably no injury for starters. Like even the first year, I think I missed 4 or 6 games or whatever I missed. The second year, I think that year is probably the only year that I never missed a game. So just getting some continuity in your legs, 4 years in the system, a little bit older, a little bit wiser, but mainly the fitness base. I think just not being injured, knowing you're part of the team, feel like you belong, and you can play good footy.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, you became a mainstay in the back line. What was your role at the time, and how did you sort of measure yourself? How did you know that you succeed as a defender?
Well, my role pretty much every week was to get the most dangerous forward. I look back who I played on. I played on some magnificent players, all the Aboriginal players who are so talented. Brett Heddy, who's hard to play on for West Coast Eagles, or you name them. Peter Dacos, Gavin Wanganeen, Michael Long, Jarman, McAdams. They just kept coming and coming. And so it was a challenge each week. They can obviously tear you to bits if they have a good day. And if you can shut them down, you go a fair way towards stopping the opposition winning. So it was a great challenge each week.
Yeah, we recently had Dale Morris on, and he said he did a lot of research into defenders. In the forward players that he played on before the game. Nowadays, there's behind the goal footage, and you can really study and analyse that. And he also tried to understand the psychology of the players. How would you prepare for a Cracker Brother or a Peter Dacos? What did you do to sort of get the edge?
I don't think I prepared for them any differently. I could read the play fairly well. If I had one skill, didn't have many, but if I had one, I could read the play fairly well. So I could sort of move half a step before they moved. And it wasn't easy. Like you're playing Dacos. We played at Collingwood. We were 1-on-1 on the goal line all day, and they kicked about 28 goals. The ball was coming down 100 miles an hour. I think might have been Wills' last year, I reckon. And that year, played on Dacos there. And I don't think I prepared on them any differently. You've got to adjust quickly. If you see someone, outmark you or quick on the lead or always leads to the left or whatever they might do, you've got to think on your feet and adjust pretty quickly.
Absolutely. Were there any sort of massive, massive scalps that you took down that you just sort of look back on and just say, got him?
I didn't. Dacos kicked 4 on me that day. He kicked 4 out of 28, but that was before Libba learnt defence, and Axe wasn't too big on picking them up out of the centre either. So we had Tony Francis and Scotty Russell were having 15 bounces and target practice to me and Dacos at full forward. So I would say that 4 out of 28 still wasn't a horrible result. Michael Turner kicked 4 on me one day, gave me the greatest shove in the back ever to get his 4th one here. Had about 8 or 9 touches, and again, they kicked about 26 goals. So they were my 2 worst results. But I would say, I don't think probably down when I was down back, I don't think I really got exposed really badly by anybody down there.
Unreal. Well, you were known from the Bulldog faithful as just that reliable person and player who just wore the opposition like a glove, and you just fought tooth and nail, didn't you?
Well, I think I had good concentration.
Oh.
Again, concentration, reading the play, they were probably my 2 greatest skills. I wasn't overly quick. I wasn't skillful. I had lots of deficiencies. But if I had 2 things going for me, it was probably concentration and reading the play. So I guess if you annoy someone enough, like I remember one of my early games, I was playing Ross Lyon. He'd had 9 centre clearances the week before, and Mick Mulder said, "Right, you've got Ross Lyon." And I was going pretty well on him before half time, and pardon the language, he said, "If you don't, I'll knock you out behind the grandstand after the game." So I take that as a compliment that I was going okay on him. And, I think I sort of concentrated enough to stay close to them for most of the day.
Interesting. Look, I recently spoke to Alex Keith, who was a cricketer, and he said one of his super strengths was his ability to concentrate. Do you sort of attribute your sort of early cricket sort of style to to being in the zone and playing every moment?
Oh, I don't know. I think no, probably not. I just think probably more reading. Reading the plays probably the reading the play was probably my greatest strength. I could sort of anticipate where the ball might go, where the player might go, and sort of, cut him off before he could do the lead, or sort of get a fist in before, sort of going the same way the ball's going and get a fist in to spoil it or whatever. I think probably reading the play was my greatest strength.
Gotcha. Absolutely. Now, you touched on Bernard Toohey, but you played on a number of tough guys, didn't you? The Danny Suddens, your Ricky Kennedys, Stevie Crediuk. What was it like going to war with those sort of uncompromising people?
Yeah, Ricky maimed a few of my opponents for me. A couple of them had a sleep. Jimmy Wind had a sleep one day out there at, I think, Optus Oval. I was going through the pack, and poor old Jimmy Wind for Fitzroy. I just hear this thud behind me, and Rick's just jogging off into the distance like nothing had happened. He was great to play alongside. He was really good. Huck was good. Huck was really good vocally. So, you'd always hear him around you and know what's around you. He'd always be talking to you. And those two guys, Huck sort of left a couple laying on the ground as well along the way. So I wouldn't like to be playing against them, put it that way.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's move to 1991, shall we? That year you had a really incredible game. You dominated against the Bombers. You had 20 kicks. I think you destroyed Buick, maybe Philandia on that particular day as well, from memory. And it was also a famous day where the goal umpire had an absolute howler of a day, one with Leon Cameron and another one with Peter Foster at the Barclay Street end, where Fozzie just blatantly missed, but the goal umpire gave it the two fingers. So I don't know if you remember that day.
I remember not one thing about the day, but I'm happy to take your praise that I played well, but I don't remember the day at all.
Sure. Well, it ended with Fozzie shaking the goal umpire's hand. He thought that the ump colluded with him. Fozzie certainly remembered it. He let me know all about it. Okay, another game you might remember later in that season was against Carlton. We had held them goalless up until three-quarter time, and you and Super McPherson, you just didn't give them an inch down back. Do you remember that day?
Yeah, 8 goals, 9 to 1 goal 10. I remember that one well. The 28-minute mark of the last quarter, Mark Arsieri, Super give away a free kick. I think it gave a free kick, and Mark Arsieri kicked the only goal, and we come in after the game, and Super punched a hole right through the door, right through the wall, or through the door or the wall. I can't remember, but yeah, the poor old, I think the wall suffered badly.
Super did not like giving anything up, did he?
No, he didn't. He used to. One of his big hates was if when you do like the 100 or whatever, you do your runs, and anyone who cut the cone, Super just held them down. He didn't like shortcuts, and he certainly didn't like giving away that goal to Mark Arsieri.
Love that. Love it. All right, so here we go, 1992. It's your fifth season. You had not tasted finals up until that point, but the team had an absolutely fantastic campaign, didn't we? Can you recall that season, how it unfolded, not only for the team, but also for you personally?
I'm going to have to ask you, is that the year I missed the finals injured?
Yeah, it was.
It is, okay. Well, I remember, again, it's a vague memory. It's a very vague memory. I remember coming to the final. I think Terry Wheeler picked the team, and the team came out before training. So the team came out on, say, the Thursday night, we trained Friday. And the team come out, and I'm named in the team. And we go on the ground for training on the Friday, and Plough just crept over to me, and who was assistant coach, and Plough said, "You're named in the team, but don't get too confident yet." And I thought, okay, what's happening here? So we trained. I think Ilya Grigic feigned a hamstring injury during training. Off he goes with a hamstring injury. We walk in the coach's room for the meeting, and Wheels goes, "Ilya, you're in. Kenny, you're out. I just can't trust your hamstrings. You're out." And the room was just silent. The room just went silent. And the Wheels kept talking for about 20 seconds. He goes, "Look, there's a shit feeling in the room. We've just got to get over it." And I'm just sitting there in a coma thinking, I've just trained. I've got through training. I'm right to play. And you just told me I'm not playing. I'm not supposed to be happy here, am I? So I had to take my gear to the game, sit in the room like I was playing, and then there was a late change, and Ilya ran out on the ground and played instead of me.
Wow. Are you talking about this as the first final?
Well, no, this is the third final. No, the third final. That's the third. First final I was injured.
Right.
That we lost to Geelong, did we? We lost to
Geelong. Yeah.
And then we beat St Kilda. I didn't play. Right. And then the third final was the one where I was picked to play, but I was never really picked to play. I trained, got through training. My name was in the paper. I was playing. There was an article written in the paper. But when we went in the coach's room for the team meeting, Will said, "I've got some bad news. You're not playing," and Ilya's in. He said, "I don't trust your legs."
Wow,
So
wow.
I think Billy Collingwood ended up playing back pocket that day, for memory, and I think by the 15-minute mark of the second quarter, he'd been moved away from the back pocket. So no, it was a bad day, that one.
Oh, absolutely. So you would have been sitting up in the grandstand with Peter Foster, with Choco Royal, and thinking what might have been.
Well, we got smashed in the finish, so it wouldn't have mattered. Would have made no difference at all if I played. But it was a pretty rough, pretty rough naming you in the paper and doing all that sort of stuff, and then saying you're out.
Oh, horrible. Okay, fair enough, fair enough. Now, I understand it was around this time, and a player whispered this in my ear recently, and he said that you were interested in the form of some of the fancies in the races back at that time. Can you tell me about an alleged form guide that was concealed in your sock that you requested a teammate to read out the numbers of mid-game?
Well, we're playing Fitzroy, and it was going to be a very boring day. Fitzroy were no good. I was playing back pocket. The ball wasn't going to come down. I figured I had my opponent covered. So that was against Fitzroy. So they used to put the results up on the scoreboard. So I cut the little race fields out of the footy record, took them on the ground, and up goes race 5. 9's beaten 6, 8, and 7, or whatever it was. So I gave him a sock to pull out the form guide thing to see who won. But because I've been running around, it had all smudged together and I couldn't open it. It wouldn't unfold. So I walked over to Barry Stanfield. He was playing on Alistair Lynch. And I said, Fish, look at this. Look at this. I can't even open this to see who's won race 5. And he just gave me his dumb look, which he does, Barry. That's what he does. Give me his dumb look. And he goes, get away, get away. I said, no, look, you don't understand. I don't know who's won the first leg of the quaddy fish. Then he told me to F off and go on my own business. So that's the story of the form guide in the sock. And Alistair Lynch was playing and he just looked at, what's going on here?
Well, I hope we won that day.
Well, we had, there was never in doubt. We used to have the old trainers, like Rexy Wilkinson and all the boys used to bring out the results. Or Eddie Walsh, when you go in at halftime, Eddie would tell you who won the first few races.
Brilliant. Love that. Okay, so here we are. We missed out on the big dance, didn't we, in 1992, as you say? But there was great hope entering 1993. Terry Wheeler said, "Look, this is our premiership window," and he got a little bit creative in the preseason with a parachute jump over Port Phillip Bay. Can you remember did you summons all your Melton tough guy status to get up in that plane?
Well, I don't know if you've spoken to Hawke, but cut a long story short, when we were out at Pakenham skydiving school doing the practice, the first person we saw jump out of a plane, we were practicing getting on and off this makeshift plane, and there was someone coming down, an instructor with a learner or whatever behind him, and the fella who was teaching us said, come out and watch this bloke land. So we go over to watch him land. Well, he goes face down and dies. He just hit the deck and died in front of us. That was the first person I saw jump out of a plane. So do you think I'm going to jump out of a plane after that? Not a chance. So we go from Pakenham down to Werribee, whatever it's called down here, and Labberton Air Base, and all the Catholics get off and pray, Allocax get off and pray on the way there. And I said to Hawke, there's no way known we're jumping, Hawke. We're not jumping. And Terry Wallace he blamed vertigo, but he shit himself. He wouldn't jump either. So me, Hawke, and Plough are back at Williamstown Beach, and the first plane like Keenan Reynolds and a few others was just yahooing. They came out the plane yahooing. I looked at Hawke, said, come on, Hawke, we've got to go. So down we go, down to Laverton, me and Hawke. We're on the Cowards plane with Fozzie, Liver. I don't know who else is on there, but Hawke, between a 50-metre walk to get onto the plane, Hawke asked the girl to check his chute about 9 times. He's kissing the photo of his kids all the way over. We hop on the plane, little 6-seater with no doors. I'm the bravest of the cowards, so I've got to sit there, no door next to me. The girl's got her legs straddled either side of me, hold me in. 1 minute, 30 seconds, 20 seconds, 10 seconds, go. And I went to jump, and I just froze. And she just went whoosh and just threw me out the plane. And I went to pull the chute, because they said you've got to aim for Luna Park or something like that. I was facing Geelong. So I thought I'll pull the chute and try and turn around. It looked like it was collapsing, so I just threw it to the shit house and just floated into the water. And then I'm just waiting, same as Hawke, I'm petrified of sharks. I'm waiting for a shark to bite me. But that's, we finally, we both were never, ever going to go on the plane, me and Hawke, but we both did it.
That's brilliant. Dougie asked me to ask you about that, but
yeah, well, he was a bigger coward. I was petrified, and he was worse than me. So you imagine how he was.
Well, I'm glad that the rescue boat came and fished you out because you had a premiership son to conceive. Brilliant. Love that story. Thanks, Kenny. So So 1993, it wasn't quite to be. There was some issues towards the end of the season. Peter Foster, Brian Royal, their careers came to quite a sudden end with some injuries, and there was a big changing of the guard. What do you feel was the missing sort of ingredient of that particular season?
Fozzie's one of the best three players I ever played with. I missed the career. I missed the best of Hawkins and Royal, Kennedy. I missed the best of those guys by the time I got there. But Fozzie, till he broke his leg, till Paul Deere kicked him and broke his leg, tripped him. I always reckon, Scotty Wine's the best player I played with, Chris Grant, and then I'd go with Peter Foster. Fozzie was outstanding. So losing someone like him out the side, I don't remember 93 specifically, but guys like that, very hard to replace. And I guess Wheels had been there for 3 years and didn't have long to go in hindsight.
No, he didn't. Well, 1994 by round 3, Wheels was out the door, wasn't he? And we had a new coach that was ushered in. But you had perhaps, or certainly your greatest season ever in 1994. I think you had the 4th most kicks in the league that season. What a year was it? How did you explode like you did?
Well, I think from memory, the first 3 games, I think we had Collingwood got belted. Then we just beat Richmond maybe, and then we got smashed by Geelong down there at Geelong, and then Joycey took over. And first game was against Collingwood at the MCG, and Joycey was rushed in, didn't even know the players' names, didn't have a game plan that day, just basically said, come off and look your mates in the eye. Honesty, look your mates in the eye. And Collingwood had 5 goals to zip, so we were in all sorts of trouble. I was playing down back, and I got put onto Nathan Buckley after, I think, 10 minutes into the second quarter. I got put onto Nathan Buckley and had a really good game on him. And we pegged him back, and I still blame Danny Delray. I told him the other day, I still blame him for us losing that game. I came through the centre with about 3 minutes to go and marked one and hit Delray with a kick. He goes back from 35 out, the best kick in the team, and sprays it to the left. So Delray cost us the game. But that was Joycey's first game. And I remember coming off the game, there's me, Hawk, and Leon Cameron just bawling our eyes out. And I've never cried before or after ever in a football game. And the 3 of us were just in tears in the room. And Joycey looked at us, who's a big, tough Hawthorn man, and he just looked, he didn't know what to say. He just said, boys, look, I'll never condone losing, but I can see how much it's hurt you. If you play like that every week, I'll have no complaints.
Wow, that's unreal. Love that. Well, it shows how much the club means to you, Mark.
Well, that was just the game. I don't know what happened. It was just, a lot of games are emotional. I don't know what happened that game. Like, you wouldn't have seen Hawk cry too many times either, or Leon Cameron, I'm sure. So I don't know what had happened. I think the departure of a coach, pretty emotional week, and departure of a coach and someone new comes in, and I don't know what happened that day. I still can't explain it.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, look, speaking of emotion, later on in that season, you got to play in Dougie Hawkins' incredible record-breaking game, didn't you? And it was a carnival atmosphere. And the great EJ exchanged a flick pass at the start of the game.
Yeah.
Was he in the rooms before the game? Do you remember the build-up?
I don't remember the build-up to the game, no. I remember the game, but I don't remember the build-up at all. But I'd say I would have thought EJ would have come in. He was not as often there as Charlie, but he would wander in. You'd see him every now and again, and I'm sure he would have been in before the game. And to play in that game, it's one of the great memories to play in a game of such a fantastic player like Doug Hawkins to play in those milestone games. Yep.
Brilliant. Another player who was in that team that day was our current coach, Bevo. What was it like playing with Luke?
I don't remember. I remember him as I think he only played a couple of years, Bevo. And I was watching a game the other day that bobbed up on 504 on Fox Footy, and there he was playing against Richmond, it might have been, and you just see him, he got hurt. He went in that hard. He nearly killed himself towards the end of the game, and I think that summed him up. He wasn't the tallest or most talented, but he's tough as nails, and you watch that game, and it bob up again on Fox Footy. He nearly killed himself with about 5 minutes to go.
Love him. Love that. Yep, fantastic. Now, speaking of nearly killing someone, I think it might have been the last home and away game that season. We went up to Subiaco playing against the Eagles. And you mentioned Brett Heddy earlier.
Yep.
Stevie Wallace laid out Brett Heddy with probably the biggest shirt front you've ever seen. And again, you were right on the scene to see that. How was that day?
Madness, absolute madness. Danny Southern, Steve Wallace, the crowd just wanted to kill us. It was pretty hostile in those days. And you go to football park and they would be, waiting out by the bus, just abusing the crap out of you. But that day, the natives were restless. They were off tap. That was out of control that day.
Yeah, absolutely. We're interviewing Danny Southern next week, so we're looking forward to him telling his sort of side of the story there and what unfolded.
He
But
wasn't the only one Wally got. Wally got a few over the years. He had a lethal hip and shoulder, Wally.
yeah, beautiful. Such a fair player, but geez, he was strong, wasn't he? And hard at it.
He was strong. I used to watch him because he played on similar players to who I played on. And I remember him playing on Dacos, and I didn't play that day, but it was at Victoria Park, and he just he would start a blue out of nowhere. He just have him wrestling, and you see Wally wrestling on the ground just to try and get them off the game.
Brilliant, brilliant, love it. Now, speaking of opponents, you sort of talked about Dakes and you've mentioned a few others. Who were the very best opponents that you played on, and ones maybe that you despised or even admired?
They're all dangerous. They're all very dangerous. The best player I ever played on was Greg Williams. I played on him at Carlton. I played in the centre. I've had a year, I played a few games. I played a year or whatever in the middle, which I don't even know what, maybe 94 that might have been. And I played on Greg Williams out at Carlton, and I was going really well at the time. And I helped him win the Brownlow that day. I got him 3 votes, so he got 3 votes. But in fairness, I got 3 votes for Footscray, but they won the game by 1 or 2 goals. But he just needed Axe used to say he needed a tenth of a second. He used to tell Wheels, I need a tenth of a second, so someone just got to block me and I'll shoot the handball off. Well, I think Greg Williams needed less time, and he would just feed them, Craig Bradley or whoever was flying past. He was the best player. You walk up to playing him, and he said, listen, if you hang on to me, I'll break your jaw. So we had a good arrangement from the start. I never hung on to him, but no, we had a good battle. They won the game by 1 or 2 goals, and he got the 3 votes in the Brownlow, so I've got to take some credit for his Brownlow, but I didn't have too bad a game. I did get the 3 votes for Footscray that day.
Love that. He wasn't the quickest player, Diesel, was he? But so how was he, so sharp?
Well, he just didn't need to be. He was so clever and got all his stuff in close, and he just needed no time to bang it out. He was brilliant with foot, brilliant with hand, even better with hand, and just left or right hand. And they just knew, Bradley and that Naylor or whoever was playing at the time, just knew as soon as he gets anywhere near the ball to be streaming past.
Yeah, okay, all right. Yeah, he still gives me nightmares thinking about how he dominated against us, that's for sure. All right, so 1994, you're uninjured, and it's finals time, Mark. You played in your very first final that year. It was against Geelong in front of 60,000 people. They got an early jump on us, but it turned out to be an epic struggle towards the end. What are your recollections of that classic encounter?
Well, you won't see it on television, but when Richard Osman kicked that goal with, 27 seconds to go or something like that, now it doesn't, the camera never ever goes back to the bounce. You watch the replay, the camera never ever goes back to the bounce. The bounce went right angle sideways, straight to Geelong. So these days, the bounce would come back. Oh. It was so, I don't know why we weren't manned up or whatever. I don't know why he hadn't set up the centre properly, but they never show it until they're showing the replay of the Osman goal. In actual fact, the bounce was a disgrace and went straight to, I think, Johnny Barnes was in the ruck, and out they go, bang, 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 and then obviously Billy Brownless finished up with the ball and kicked the goal.
Oh, that's
so my memories of that game. I reckon that game. I don't know. I think I ran the ground, and Timmy Harrington might have been our runner. And before the game, I thought I did my hammy in the warm up, and I was out there on the ground. I said, Harrow, I think I've gone here. I think I've done a hamstring here. And anyway, I kept going, and it was all right. It didn't go, but I thought before the game I'd broken down before the game there.
Oh wow. Okay, well I'm glad you got through the game, but it turned out to be a nightmare end, and we ended up playing Melbourne the following week and getting blown away, didn't we? So it just wasn't to be.
No, I remember the Melbourne game. I think we'd come to the end of our campaign. That's 94. So that's Joyce's second year. Yeah, I think we'd come to the end of our campaign by the end of the year. We were flying during the year. The Geelong game probably should have won. We probably should have won that game, and then Melbourne, we just got smashed.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a similar story in 1995. We made finals, but again, bundled out. But you decided to say, you know what, I'm going around for a 9th season. Were you hoping that 1996 would be a fairy tale ending?
Oh, I had another year to go on my contract. I was actually contracted in 97, but 96 was a disaster injury-wise. I just couldn't train. I just couldn't get any continuity, any training. Once you're breaking down and not training, you lose half a yard, and the end is near. Once you lose half a yard, you're gone.
Yeah, I see. But your final game, you probably remember this, vividly. It was against Collingwood, and it was Terry Wallace's first game as coach. It was the famous "I'll spew up" day, and we got beaten, didn't we, against the Maggies?
I remember the game because I snapped a beauty. I was chasing, can't remember the player's name, a little Collingwood guy, and just bang, pinged a beauty and missed the last 5 weeks of the year, and that was me done.
That was you done. Yeah, absolutely. So when you did your hammy, did you sort of say to yourself, it's over for me, or were you hoping to get back?
It was a good one. I knew it was a good one. 5 weeks gone, I went in after the year to the exit meeting. I knew I'd be in trouble because I think I'd only played 9 games, and they were nothing to write home about. I'd slowed down and broken down, and I knew I'd be in trouble. And yeah, the exit meeting obviously didn't go so well.
Yeah, okay. Were you in the rooms when Plough went off with his "I'll spew up" speech?
Yeah. Like, he took over, and they should have won the flag in '97. It was just, again, with a new coach, it was amazing what the turnaround did with a new coach. So they should have won in '97. I think they were very stiff there.
Yeah, we had Tony Liberatore on, and he swears black and blue that kick went through. That was given a point.
Well, I got some bad news for him. I think it'll go down in history as a point.
Absolutely. Yep. Now, look, you spoke about some of your best players, and you mentioned Scotty Wind and Peter Foster. If you could give me your Mount Rushmore, so we ask all players to carve 4 names in the side of a mountain, the best players that they played with across their career. Which 4 players would make Mark Hunter's Mount Rushmore?
I'd go, Scotty Wine's the best player I ever played with. He's just, for a ruckman, was unbelievable. I think the first 4K run we went on, I can't remember if I ran 4th and he ran 5th or the other way around. He's standing in the hole in front of Plugger. He was a mighty player, absolute mighty player. Chris Grant played as a 17-year-old centre-half forward in a bad team. Skinny kid as a centre-half forward. He was number 2. Peter Foster, outstanding Peter Foster. Alongside me, he was just great. He was tough. He was a beauty. And number 4, Leon Cameron. I'd go number 4, Leon Cameron, I've seen 2 people kick out from full back on their wrong foot, Leon Cameron and Sam Mitchell. I think that takes a fair degree of confidence and skill to do that.
So good. Love hearing that. Okay, so there's 4 champions there. Thank you. Now, look, post-career, you clearly couldn't keep away from the club, could you? Danny Delray came on the show and said that there was a call from Rocket Eade and said, look, we need a couple of runners. And you turned up and became a runner. What was that experience like working under Rocket Eade?
Yeah, everything you've seen on telly's real. It was Rocket Eade's. He's a good bloke, Rocket. He's a beauty. He's a marvellous man. He's a completely different man between 2 and 5 p.m. Before that, he's mild-mannered, he's intelligent, he's thinking. Then once the game starts, off he goes. And it's you got to listen closely because there's just screaming coming through the headphones.
Get him off. Yeah, get him off. Come on. Rocket, we can't hear. We can't. Take Minson off. Take Minson off now.
I used to always have someone next to me on the bench. Did he say that? Because he screams that loud that sometimes it's a bit hard to hear it. And one day in Sydney, I couldn't hear him. I could hardly hear him at all. And after the game, I said, Rocket, I couldn't hear. He said, nah, smash the phone. So he had to talk into the microphone on the wall. And, everything you've seen is real. All the there's no sugarcoating that. It was good fun. I enjoyed it. In the end, it just became a bit of babysitting. Like, go and tell such and such to come off. Go and tell such and such to come off. That was all it was. It was just sort of going out and telling them it was their turn to come off the ground.
Yeah, Danny Delray said that there was one game where he was given about 5 or 6 instructions all at once, and the pressure just mounted, and he forgot everything, and the phone was just waiting for him, and he vaporised when he came back. Rocket, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I used to. In the end, I'd write them down on a bit of paper. Just say, go out there. Because I went out there once and ripped my calf on the way out. Bang, ripped my calf, and it's almost in shock going out there. Luckily, I had it written on the paper because I was sort of half in shock having ripped a calf on the way out.
Unbelievable. Okay. So, what a career you had. After retirement, did you reflect? Did you have a chance to sit down and sort of reflect on, on your successes and everything you achieved, and how did you sort of perceive your career?
No, I couldn't wait to get away. In the end, I'd had enough. I was breaking down. I'd had enough, completely had enough. I had horse racing outside of football to go to, and I couldn't wait to get away from football. So I probably had 10 years where I didn't even watch it, basically didn't even watch it. It's funny, like I couldn't wait to get away. These days, I would dream about the end of my career at least once a week, thinking, I know I don't want to retire. I want to go and train harder. I want to play. I want to play another year. So that's. I saw someone the other day who does exactly the same. I can't think. Might have been Scotty. Might have been Scotty Wind. Actually, it was Scotty Wind. How we both, at least once a week, dream about the end of our career. It's just amazing. It's amazing this late in life, you still think about it. So how did I perceive my career? Well, I think I played 100. I didn't start till I was 22. Played 130. I think I missed 69 injured with the Dogs. Missed 4 years basically with a back injury from Geelong. So whilst 130 is a respectable number, it should have been a whole lot higher, bar for injury basically. So anyway, it is what it is. I got to captain the club. Got to captain the club and had a bit of fun along the way.
Tell us about that captaincy.
I think I had 6 games, 3-3. 3 games, three wins, 3 losses. I captained 1 year against Melbourne at the MCG where I had 30 kicks and 6 handballs that day in the centre. And we won the game by maybe a goal. Captained against Mark Rashudo, Anthony Stevens. I can't remember the other games, but yeah, 6 games. I think Scotty Wine was injured and Super was in the 2s. So I was in the right place, right time for Joycey to make that call.
Yeah, what an honour. It must have been around 94. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was great. And, Lockie's gone on to captain a couple of games, so something we've both done.
Yeah. So tell us about Lockie. What the pride you must have felt for your son to be bestowed the honour of getting the father and son. How was that moment of seeing your boy in the red, white and blue?
Yeah, it was nerve-wracking along the way. You never quite know you never quite know if they're going to make it. You hope they do, and the club are always positive and saying, yeah, we'll look at him, we'll train him and all that sort of stuff. And he played the under-18 carnival over in Adelaide and kicked 2 goals. And Scotty Clayton came up to me and said, look, will you relax? He's going to get drafted. Will you relax? And then the Dogs were playing Ducks and Drakes. Look, if he goes too early, we won't pick him. But North Melbourne bid 35. Dogs only had to match 49. And first game was against Richmond. I was nervous as all hell, just thinking, what if he doesn't get a kick? What if he never gets a kick in AFL football? But he kicked the goal his first game and got a few touches, so it was a good start. Yeah,
well, there's some synergy with your first game there, isn't it? With kicking a goal in your first game, so that's unreal. And what was it like attending the 2016 grand final? How are the nerves, and what was the emotion of feeling? You know what, this is my club.
It was an amazing month. The grand final was almost an anticlimax. I go to every game, so we went over to Perth thinking we had no hope and blew them away. The MCG game against the Hawks was unbelievable, and I think you'll hear anybody that's ever been to that preliminary final against GWS say that that's just the most emotional, amazing game you could go to, where everyone in the bay was just crying and hugging each other. I've never seen anything like that. So to get through that game, get into the grand final, not an anticlimax, it was obviously a great day, but I think it's just been such a long journey for the month, and the GWS game was hard to top. The grand final day itself was it was a great day, and to think that when you grow up, all you want to do is get out of there on the dais and hand over a little Premiership cap to a kid. I think that's probably one of the greatest moments in sport. So to have your son do that in the team, that's something you remember forever.
Yeah, fantastic. Did you feel a part of it?
He'd come around in the morning. I was more nervous than him. He'd come around in the morning and wanders into my office where I was just doing some work, and I thought, what's he like? Is he nervous or what? And he's just flicking channels, watching American sport as if just another day in paradise, and off he goes to the MCG to play in the grand final. So I was more nervous than him. I had to get there early and do a Coulterbeans interview about 12:30. It was a long day. It was a long day. And then you just, I don't know, I guess you just had a gut feeling that Sydney were going to be too professional and knock them over. But then once the reality kicks in, I wish he had been on the ground for the final. He got hit by Luke Parker and got the blood rule and had to come off at the finish. But it was an amazing day.
Yeah, absolutely. What a day. Well, Mark, listen, we're coming very close to the end of our podcast, and we always have a quiz to end. And the person who's at the top at the end of the year plays Dougie Hawkins in a final. So you've got to be in it to win it, Mark. So we're putting you in the hot seat. You've played with Packer Brothers, Dacos, Rashudo. This is your moment.
Okay, fire away.
All right, awesome. You've got 2 categories. We'll give you a chance. So would you like to do Bulldog surnames beginning with M, or highest and lowest records at the Bulldogs?
I'll go the surnames.
Surnames beginning with M. Awesome. Fantastic. Well, good luck. Here we go. Albie Morrison was a 5-time leading goal kicker at the club. Is that true or false?
I'm going to go false.
It was true. In his 18 seasons, 2016 was the only year that Bob Murphy failed to score a goal. Was that true or false?
I'm going to say that's false.
It's true. Phil Malin's nickname was the Piranha. Is that true or false?
Shark.
It's the Shark. Well done. Which player had the final kick in the 2016 grand final?
Toby McLean.
Correct. Name the two McPherson brothers.
Steve and Rod.
Correct. Bulldog Mick McLean left the club and joined which other team?
Brisbane.
Correct. What number did Will Minson wear?
27.
Oh, and what year did Tony McGuinness win the Dogs Best and Fairest?
I'm going to say 1990.
Oh, it was 87. How many clubs did Simon Minton Connell play for?
3.
It was 4. Which player kicked 4 goals after being knocked out in the opening bounce of the 2005 elimination final? That's right on the siren. We'll give
Brett
you
Montgomery. Brett Montgomery.
Indeed it was. Well done, Mark. That was awesome. Well, do you know what? I'm going to put the scores up on the board right now and let's see how you did. Here it comes now, Mark. Look at that. What an effort. Unreal. Well done, Mark. And thanks for jumping into the hot seat. Listen, before we leave you today, we end with a final question, and that is: do you have any final messages for dog supporters, and how would you like to be remembered?
For dog supporters, how would I like to be remembered? I suppose someone that at least they could rely on every week. You didn't get the best on ground performance, but down back on someone you knew that opponent would have to sort of work for goals. So I guess I'd like to be remembered as someone who had to go each week.
Well, you certainly did that, Mark. You never let us down, and we loved every moment of your journey. And you know what the cherry on top was? You brought us a Premiership son. How good is that? You're a favourite son for a reason, and we've loved every moment of your journey. So from the bottom of our hearts, we want to say thanks so much for joining us on Inside the Kennel, and all the best for the future.
Thanks, Matty. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Hunter.
Red in my heart, white in my veins, blue in my eye, red, white, and blue in my brain.